to review this then, and this is also going to have the maiden wash, basically. This is a unused Indesit WG1385 from a house clearance guy local to me. It's got some scuffs on it. I don't know whether it's because it's from whilst he's been moving it or whether it's where it's been stored. But this has never been used up until 2 days ago when I tested it. Yeah, its first wash was 2 days ago, and even then that was just a 60-degree wash just to see that it's okay. It does have a bearing knock on it, which does plague a lot of Indesits, so nothing we can do about it, but unless we change bearings, of course. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to run it as. Bearing knock's not too bad, to be honest. Right, well, look at it. There's no... We can't really work out why it wasn't used for over 28 years or whatever, but it looks like it's been bought, unpacked, and then never installed. Although it's not unheard of that some people would do buy appliances and then change their mind on what appliance they actually want. So they buy the appliances along with the kitchen, say, install a kitchen, and then halfway through the kitchen install might then decide to have an integrated washing machine, and then the brand new washing machine that they had gets put into the garage, and then that's usually how we end up sometimes with washing machines like this. I don't know the actual story why this was never installed, but that's usually the case. Yeah. We've got our kick plates under kit here. Tiny bits of damage from being moved. Behind that is the drain filter, so you can empty the coin filter at your leisure. I'm going to show you underneath as well. So these are our feet. Look how big they are in comparison. They're quite spongy too. Look, we've still got little bits of polystyrene still. And look, you can tell that this has never been used. Right, there's no carbon dust whatsoever. Look, no rust. Because these Omegas are terrible for rotting, unfortunately. No rot. Interesting, it looks like this body as well. I think that in some markets, not in our market, but in some markets these will have rollers instead. And rollers will go here. By lots of things. So you can push it in and out. Quite interesting. You do that. Yeah. The actual feet, obviously, the rubber is a little bit perished. I don't know what... You know, you can see the gouges a little bit, probably from where it's been dragged during the house move or been put in. There's our Indesco motor. Yeah, there's our... So yeah, it's from... It's a sump there. It comes across, sump there. That attaches back to the door seal. It's really weird how it works. So that goes up there to the door seal, the hole in that, and that comes down. Pumps there. Filter will be there on this side, drain out, etc. But we got something else to do in a minute. So we've got the back. I've already hooked up the water. We've got our, this is the cold, and then we've got the hot marked with H and C on the valves. Makes sense. I'll just show you the plug. This is our plug. It's not a fitted plug, or moulded plug, shall I say. Yeah, bit of an odd one. Back, typical Italian stuff where it slides in into grooves. It's pushed in and dented here. Don't know why. Maybe it's probably sold like that. There you go. So, Indesit. Crayford Kent, 2300 watt, 1300 spin, serial number, believe it or not, is over here. So there's our, there we go, there's our SN number, 5051 94075. I've got a stamp here, it's a bit rubbed off. Right, and if we notice as well, we've got our transit bolts in, so yeah. Like I said, I've used it, but this was used without any washing. It was just a quick test wash on a 60 just to kind of, they tell you to use 60, don't they, to kind of get rid of the smells initially. So looks like there's two ways of doing it. You can either use a 13mm bolt, or you can use a what looks like to be a quite thick crosshead. That might fit. Maybe not. Yeah, but a thick flathead that can usually do them, or 13mm bolt. So we'll get a 13mm bolt then on top of that then. So when you take these all out, there is a rubber bung that holds, that goes between the body and the tub. So we'll knock them down so they're out of the way, giving free movement of the tub. Just a quick one, them rubber things look like this. Right, door. Your handle's actually at a 45-degree angle, which is a bit odd. Very Italian-like, actually. I do like this. It's very odd. This is how you know it's an early Amiga. Later Amigas actually then put the door handle actually there instead. So, right, little groove there to put your thumb, your fingers there, thumb there, pull. It's easing up. Now, when I first got this, it was a bit hard to open, but now it seems to be easing up a bit, which is nice. Right. Alright. So I believe this is a 5kg drum. So our door seal. Now there you go. Let's show you. So we've got this here. Yeah. Then that connects back down to the sump at the bottom with its own little sump area. Don't know why. It's a bit of a bizarre thing. Yes, this fills up with stones and crud and everything else. I get that they put it in to help it drain, you know, when it's sat, but yeah. Because of the door seal, can you see little bits coming away? The door seal's brand new. Yeah, there's little bits in there. Strangely though, to help it, even though it helps it to go away, look, you got these 3 holes here. Really odd design. We've got our deflector there. Actually, that's quite interesting because deflectors are more of a modern thing. A lot of the times deflectors weren't really used on the door seals. So yeah, things would often end up getting trapped between the drum and the door seal, and then end up either getting teared or end up going underneath the drum. Nice to see that though. That's interesting. The hinges are, that's obviously galvanized steel, but they're plastic. So we've got 18 program positions written out on the dial. Obviously, the cottons takes the max full load. Synthetics, max load 2.5 kilogram. And I believe the woolens is 1.5 kilogram. Obviously, cottons. And your normal length cycle. So we've got program 1, basic 90-degree whites with a pre-wash. The pre-wash is done at 40. Before going on to the main wash, then I run the main wash on program 2, white cotton at 90. At 3, fast colours at 60 degrees. 4, non-fast colours at 40 degrees. 5, extra rinsing, basically all the rinses for the cottons. I think he does 4 with intermediate spins. 6 is obviously one final fabric softener rinse, followed by obviously the final spin. 7 is extra spin, extra cotton spin, which is done at 1300 RPM, and then you got stop. Then you got synthetic side, obviously white nylon at 60, moon iron and cold synthetics at 50, delicates as in like acrylics sort of stuff at 40. By this point, this wouldn't be gentle, this would be quite thorough, and like, I think, be more thorough than say a traditional delicate cycle. Then obviously we've got rinsing, which is all the rinses for the minimum iron synthetics side. Then we've got rinsing, which is all the rinses for the synthetics. I think it does 3. Obviously then fabric conditioner rinse. That's program 12. Then we've got rinse hold marked out there in light green, but no number. Then we've got delicate spin at program 13. I think delicate spin's done at 850 RPM. This is slightly before they changed it to 800 RPM later, obviously later in the set. So 850 RPM, then obviously stop. Then we've got delicates, which isn't delicates, it's just woolens. The woolen cycle's here. Program 14, 40 degrees. Then obviously you've got wool rinsing, wool fabric softener, obviously the rinse hold, and then delicate spin, or you can select drain no spin. Effectively, if you go on to rinse hold, you can then choose whether you want a delicate spin or you want a drain no spin. I think the delicate's woolen spin is actually a lot slower. No idea, don't really know too much, not really too clued up on it, but I think it's around 600 RPM. Instead, so it's actually a bit slower than say this delicate spin, and obviously stop. Right, then we've got our program dial here. Now neatly everything clicks into place. Yeah, a proper positive click for each program that's selectable. Yeah, no more trying to guess and make sure it's aligned. It will happily click in place. That's quite nice, that. It's not quite as positive as, say, Hotpoint at the time, or Bosch at the time, or Grenier at the time, but it's a lot more positive than the previous generations of Indesit, so it's a nice change. Ooh, yeah. There, obviously, there's rinse hold, so during the program, if it gets the rinse hold, it will just stop the timer. I'll just show you then these options as well. Once you got on off, EcoUltra is half load. Reduces the water used in rinsing. It doesn't really state that much what it does. However, I can't really understand where it changes it. I've tried using the option, seeing the changes, but unless it just doesn't work with cottons, I'm not entirely sure where it works. Energy saver, now that reduces the temperature of programs 1 or 2 from 90 to 60, therefore giving you a longer 60-degree cycle, or the way they put it, it's for economical washing of whites. Then we've got 1300 over 600. So again, if it's on obviously cottons, it will reduce the spin from 1300 to 600. If it's on synthetics, it will reduce the spin from 800. Yeah, it is 800 then. 800 spin to 600 RPM. Spin cancel overrides that option altogether and will cancel all the intermediate spins as well. That's what spin cancel does, it does drain only. Heavy soil can be used on programs 1, 2, 3, 9 and 10. So these programs take on hot water as well as a mix of cold or maybe just pure hot anyway. What heavy soil does is will just basically take on cold water only. Yeah, so whereas normally you'd start off the cycle at maybe like 40 or 50 degrees already, instead you're starting from cold, so it takes longer to heat, which means your wash cycle should be slightly longer. And in that time as well, because you're heating from cold, it allows the biological washing enzymes to work with the stains, hence heavy soil. So if you've got heavy soil stains, use this button to allow the enzymes to work. Rapid wash will, well, according to the manual, it activates on all programs. It just speeds up the wash, but how it does it is a bit interesting. It does state it's particularly handy for using on programs 4 or 10 for quick washing of items, which is fine, but it doesn't necessarily state what it does. What I did find though is that obviously on programs like 2, 3, whatever, it will stop the timer once it's filled. It will fill it with water, then go into heat mode, right? And then we'll want to get to a temperature before it activates the timer. What Rapid Wash seems to do is then just activates that timer regardless of the temperature. At least on them programs. Whereas on program 4, I notice that timer's already active and will start ticking regardless of temperature, what's going into the washer, regardless of whether Rapid Wash is selected or not. So I'm not entirely sure what it does, but it makes the wash cycles quicker. Anti-crease can be used with all the synthetics and delicate cycles. Can't be used with cottons. Anti-crease, all it does is, activates rinse hold. Why they didn't just write rinse hold, I'll never know. Because that's exactly what it does. And that's the only thing it does. Right. Couple of things. We've got this pilot light here, which obviously comes on to when the machine has power to it. We've got the door lock light, which comes on once the door is locked. Obviously at the end of the cycle you will have to wait a couple of minutes, but at least you don't need to work out when it's gone out. Once it de-energizes and clicks off, that light will also go out. The heating light will come on when the heater is on. So if the heater blows at any point or just stops working, that light will never come on. Just something to know. Right, turn dispenser, handles here. It can be a bit tough to pull out when it's brand new, so just be wary of that. Pull it out. The drawer hasn't changed in 30 years of making it, other than the fabric softener chamber looks a little bit different nowadays, but essentially the sizes are all the same still. So the fabric softener, still 100ml. The pre-wash section, still 100ml of powder. The main wash, still 200ml of powder. Yeah. But there's actually absolutely no design difference, hardly. Ooh, they smell fresh. Oh yes. And they're well spun as well. Incredibly well spun. Out of 10 then. What should we give it then? It's an Indesit, so it had its fair share of problems for reliability. Things haven't really, you know, things like bearings did go. These buttons could break. They do break quite easily, these buttons, including the on-off button. The dial can break as well, I've seen that happen. Less so with the main dial, but if you had temperature dials and spin speed dials, they would break. The door could break quite easily. Even now this could break quite easily, even if it's brand new. The motors, they can burn out the brushes quite quickly. They can go through a set of brushes in about 3 years if you're not careful. But other than that, there isn't really anything else to complain about, actually. I like the dial, how it slots in place. Programs wise, you got enough. You haven't got quick wash, which, okay, it's fair enough, you got rapid wash instead. But the thing is, around about this time when this was obviously released, Hotpoint had already had their quick wash out for ages. Whirlpool had now been taken over properly, you know. They weren't no longer being made in France. They weren't the Aqualine ones being made abroad. They were now under Whirlpool as Whirlpool. That makes sense. Or Boutnecht. And they were having 30-minute washes with the access of a quick wash button. Bosch didn't have a quick wash, but Miele did. So 30-minute washes, quick washes were a thing. This still doesn't have it. Not too bad, I suppose, because at the end of the day, I mean, this, I think even without rapid wash, it's now 40-ish, now 40, now 45. Not drastically long, but probably longer than its competitors. It is using less water than its competitors. It's using less water than, say, Hotpoint, and Candy, and Hoover at this point. It definitely did a lot better than the Hoover Performer and the equivalent Candy. I mean, look at the equivalent Candy. There isn't any of them anymore. They've all gone. And as for the equivalent Hoovers, there's one or two performers around, but there really isn't any. Oddly enough, there's quite a lot of Omegas around. Less so the 1300 and even the 1200 and the 1100 with all these buttons. But the lower spec models, there's quite a fair few around still, even today. You can easily find 900 Omegas and 1000 Omegas floating about. So, reliability wise, they did do a lot better than their competitors, including Hotpoint, strangely. Is it better than Bosch? No, of course not. If it's better than Miele? No. But is it better than, say, its cheap-end competitors? Yeah, I suppose. When you kind of weigh it up in comparison to what it was kind of up against at the time of sale, it was doing a lot better in terms of sort of reliability. Quality, a bit hit and miss, but always has been with Indesit. Compared to what we got today, yeah, it's a lot better than what we got today, to a degree. So, I actually quite like the fact that you've got quite a fair few options here that do vary it a bit. Obviously, the energy saver button you wouldn't necessarily get if you had a temperature dial, but there we go. But, like, we've got variable spin. Technically, we've got obviously low spin or no spin, which is fine. Obviously, we've got heavy soil, which technically works. Rapid wash does change the dial quite a bit, the timer, how that works. Anti-crease sprints hold. So, yeah, you've got every option you kind of need. You've got every program you want. And 1300 spin, now this is there, it gains a bit. It does do better than all its cheap competitors. Apart from, let's say, like Hoover and Candy at the time, you would have to be starting paying sort of premium money for their Quattros. But compared to their spin results for their 1300 isn't that great. Whirlpool, their last Aqualine 1300s were obviously nowhere near as good. So now we turn into actual Whirlpool, and their 1300s, we're okay, we're fine, probably a lot better. Hotpoint, this walks all over Hotpoint and Creeder for their 1300s or 1200s and stuff like that. Absolutely walks all over it. So when comparing to like sort of them kind of machines, you got also Siltal, like the CDA thing that I've got, that would have been around at the time of sale with this, and it would have done a lot better than that. You obviously got Grenier as well. They were around when this was around being sold. So my WA, for example, that was sort of around that. I know that's a later model, but later version made, but this would have been sort of slightly out a bit later on, but their spin performance isn't as good as this. That makes sense. Yeah, so I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. I think that's fair. It has some foibles, but it's not terrible. Especially with the price as well. These weren't that expensive. You're obviously going to get a lot better reliability and quality with Bosch and Miele and AEG, old AEG, proper AEG, and stuff like that. But in terms of what you're given as a cheap end machine, yeah, it's pretty good. So yeah, I'm going to stick with 8 out of 10. I think it's fair. To be fair, that means that it hasn't really changed in all that while, has it? Even modern Indesits are obviously always scoring around 8 out of 10, you know, for me. So nothing's really changed then. And I think that's the best way to do stuff. Their ethic hasn't changed, so neither does the score. I do like it though. Very nostalgic. And yet I didn't, strangely, in my childhood, nobody had an Indesit. Mine was literally all Maloney stuff and Hotpoints and Whirlpools. Anyway, there we go. So, cool. Right, give us a like if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to comment down below. Love to hear your feedback about this machine, whether you like it or not. Obviously, if you've seen the little shorts, you would have known this was coming up. If you've seen the testing video, you would have seen this coming up. So, oh, also, more little shorts will be coming more frequently on the channel. I've never really done it, but I think it's a way forward for the channel, so that's why I'm doing more shorts. And generally speaking, those shorts are just going to be the mobile phone extracts from my phone. Or basically, but I'm going to do a little something else to the shorts as well, which you may have already seen, especially like the Suzzlot compilation ads, and using them as ads for upcoming videos, in a way. Cool. Right, I'll see you guys in another video, so bye for now.